Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast is number 2201. The topic is training, and the title is Methods for Improved Muscle Recovery. One of my business clients, they are a personal training director at their own facility. They have a couple trainers that work on staff for them. And in our last virtual meeting, they asked me the following. I have a personal trainer on staff who's struggling to keep up with their training and new client workload. They keep talking about possibly cutting back hours to better focus on the training, but that will hurt my income. I wanted to give them tips for better recovery. I was wondering what tips you'd give in a situation like this. So I paraphrase a little bit because I don't record everything we talk about like an audio recording, so I just kind of had to remember what they asked. But that was basically the situation they're having. Is they have a new trainer. They're a very good trainer, very high level athlete, and they've brought in a couple of their own clients, and then it kind of helped the business grow a little bit. So my client, the training director and the business owner, they don't want this person to pull back. They're like, dude, I'm making some, decent money on him. So can you help? And essentially what that athlete is struggling with is just recovery. They're on their feet more, they're burning more calories than what they're used to. So they're not recovering as quickly between their workouts. They're struggling then emotionally and mentally with their training. And they're more focused on their training than they are about making the money. So good for them. That's amazing. I'm not sure how that's a situation. So I love to have that problem. But they essentially are going to back off if this isn't addressed. So my client wants to know, what can I do? Like, how can I save them? So that way I can keep them going. They can get great results, but we can continue bringing in the money, bringing in new people. So as we talked, we covered 8 things that I made notes on. So I thought it'd be fun to share in today's podcast. So the first thing we talked about, and this is generally the order that I would address all these things. So the first thing we talked about was proper calories and protein. This trainer is now on their feet more than usual. They're active and talking to people more than usual. Their calorie usage is going to be higher than normal. So what I had my client do was go to calculator.net. There is a BMR calculator, and use that to figure out what would be a general guesstimation of how many calories this person's going to need given their age, gender, height, weight, body fat percentage, and now their current frequency of activity. So likely this person is under eating in calories. That's going to then limit the calorie allocation they have towards muscle repair and muscle growth. So you do need to have a lot of protein, but you also need to have carb and fat energy to process protein synthesis and protein repair and formation. So we might need to increase protein, but they definitely need to increase calories. So that was the first thing. The second thing we looked at was hydration. Again, they're up and active, they're doing more things. They're going to have a higher demand for hydration. If their hydration is low, if they're going into their workouts dehydrated, that will absolutely impact performance, especially since they're a performance-based athlete. So hydration is another one that we're going to look at. We can look into adding, electrolytes, whether it's a powder or a pill, to help with kind of electrolyte balance. We don't want to just flush in more water, but the added calories will bring in vitamins, minerals, and micronutrients, so we don't need to worry about too much, assuming their calories go up. But if you were to just keep your calories the same and flush in more water, you might actually dilute your electrolytes to some degree, so you would need some electrolyte support. And for example, NutriCross.com is where I get all my supplements. I've been using them for over 10 years, but we do have a recent affiliation with them now. So you can go to NutriCross.com, use the code BrutalIron10 and get a 10% discount on supplements. They have an electrolyte powder. That's actually what Meredith uses. Since we work out in the mornings, we want her to feel more hydrated. So we have an electrolyte powder added to her morning drink, so that way she's more hydrated during her workout. So those are the first 2 things. By and large, those 2 things will be the main issue for most people. If you can better address calories, protein, and hydration, they're going to feel a lot better. The thing, actually, I didn't even list this yet, so here's a surprise ninth, is sleep. If you have any way to add sleep or work on sleep quality, that can help as well, significantly. So adding sleep is obvious on what that means, just sleep more. Sleep quality would be okay, can I go to bed at the same time every night? Can I start to regulate my circadian rhythm? If I go to bed at 10 o'clock one night, midnight another night, 11 the other night, 1 a.m. the next night, that's not going to be good. That's poor sleep quality. Try to go to bed at the exact same time as much as you possibly can. You can take supplements like melatonin, super easy, nice supplement to help you kind of get sleepy 60 to 90 minutes before bedtime. You also want to bring down lights. You want to reduce temperature. You want to reduce noise and stimulation. You eventually want to get away from a screen, so don't watch Netflix on your phone while you're laying in bed. Instead, listen to an audiobook or read a paper book or do some journaling and brain dumping. Get away from a screen. That'll help you fall asleep naturally and faster as well. So those are going to be the areas that we look at by far: calories, protein, hydration, sleep. Then, what we'd want to look at is my client, the trainer, does discuss the trainer that we're trying to help, their training system and their training programming. So he doesn't write it for them, but he does have like an influence. So some of the training elements is we might want to reduce volume. So maybe in their workouts, if they're doing 18 to 20 sets in their workout, maybe we drop it to 14 to 16. That reduced volume can reduce how much muscle damage is occurring in the training, and that can better match recovery capacity. So while we're addressing food, hydration, sleep, maybe we want to reduce volume to match the recovery capacity they have at the moment, and then revisit volume as their food, hydration, and sleep improve. So training volume is something we want to adjust. We would adjust volume before we would adjust intensity. You want to do the best you possibly can with each set you're doing, but you might be ended up doing too many sets. Maybe we don't need like 4 sets of an exercise. We can get away with just 3. Or instead of 3, maybe we just do 2. So you can reduce volume, and that can help reduce the recovery demand, which then better matches your current recovery capacity, and then that can improve muscle recovery. Another one we have is improved technique. So if their lifts are a little bit sloppy, they're using a little bit too heavy of weight, all of a sudden they'll start to notice individual muscles that will be slow to recover. So maybe their lower back is slower to recover. Maybe their hamstrings are slower to recover. Their pecs are slow to recover. Maybe they also just have some connective tissue issues in their wrist, their elbow, their shoulder, their knee, whatever it might be. If they're having like spots on the body rather than a whole systemic reduced recovery, if it's spots in the body, improved technique is definitely something you want to look into, because they might have improper technique, which is causing certain areas and certain muscles and joints and connective tissues to be overloaded and overstrained. So that would be something to look at. Another option is change of exercises. If somebody's been sticking with a program for too long, that can start to impair muscle recovery. So if they're doing a program that has the same exact movements for 8 weeks or 10 weeks or 12 weeks, that is too damn long, in my opinion. There's some research and a lot of just actual working with client experiences. I change all of my clients' programming every 4 weeks, which is on the excessive side. I have way more work for myself than I need to, but it keeps everybody safe, and that's what my main goal is. That's my main concern. I want everybody safe. I want everybody making progress. I want everybody happy. If they're trusting in me to be a part of their journey, I'm sure as hell not going to let them down and let them get hurt. So I change exercises for clients every 4 weeks or sooner. I know some coaches and some programs will go longer than that. I just have found that the progress you're able to make from week to week to week becomes insignificant if you go too long, and or you start to get small injuries and technique quality issues. So I like changing exercise every 4 weeks. That is my preference. Another option is then just more movement and more stretching. So if they're going to the gym, they're kicking their own butt and just crushing things, and then they have a sedentary lifestyle between workouts, that's not going to help. Things are going to get tight. Things are going to be uncomfortable. If you get some blood flow, maybe you do some mobility stuff, maybe just some walks, go for some daily walks, get their step count up. Maybe they do a little bit of like yoga work or some mobility stretching style work in between workouts. That can help a lot. Sometimes, motion is lotion. So the more they can move, the more it gets things feeling less tight, and it can improve recovery. You then also have an option to use like therapeutic devices and other approaches. My wife, actually, Meredith, she just got me for my birthday Normatec boots, which are kind of like air compression massage boots. They're freaking awesome. Absolutely love them. I've been wanting to get my legs to grow. So for me, if I train my legs more often, they actually grow better. So I do high volume work, like high rep workouts. My workouts aren't really high volume. They're about 10 to 12 sets, but I do it twice a week. So I'm looking at 20 to 24 sets per week. And a lot of it is 10 plus reps, like 10, 20 reps. I don't do a lot of low rep work. The Normatec boots are amazing because when you do a session on the boots, which is about 20, 30 minutes, then you take them off, everything kind of feels evened out. The legs might still be fatigued, but there's not like a single strand in this muscle that feels grumpy compared to another muscle. The knee, like the patella tendon, doesn't feel as strained. It really evens out a lot of the stress, which I absolutely love. You also can use like Theraguns, like those massage guns. We have one of the guns. They're not like it's. They need to have a better name than a gun. I know it's probably not politically correct, but I don't know what that's actually called. Can't think of it right now. But we have one of their Hypervolt devices. From these, the Normatec boots and the Hypervolt thing is from the same company, Hyperice. I think that's how you say it. But amazing company, love that stuff. So we have their massage gun, we have their Normatec boots. I have a couple other things from them that I love. Those are great massage tools. And then you can also do like an Epsom salt bath. Just sit in the bath with some high amount of Epsom salts. That can like relax muscle tone in a sense of like tightness and kind of get the muscles to chill out. You can also do voodoo bands, like floss bands. Those are freaking awesome. You can wrap them around the ankle joint and do some movement and mobility work. You can wrap around the knee, do some movement and mobility work. So that's really good for opening up tissue around a joint. I love voodoo bands a lot for ankles and knees. And then you have like temperature exposure. So you can do heat treatments, you can do cold treatments. I haven't found those to be as beneficial as the other things I've said. Certainly not as beneficial as proper calories, protein, hydration, and sleep, reduced volume, improved technique, change of exercises, and movement and stretching. So before you jump in a cold plunge and think that fixes everything, for the love of God, like cold plunges right now are so unbelievably popular, but I don't know why. I'll save that for another day. Is it an option? Sure. Is it as good as a lot of other things? No. There's a lot of other things we can do before a cold plunge would be helpful. But getting into something that you even believe will help you, that can be helpful. Just the simple belief that something has that, like the placebo effect, is something is going to have an effect. Just believing that it will have an effect does actually have an effect, especially when it comes to nervous system and perception of fatigue. Perception of fatigue is literally perception. There's not a quantifiable, rating for it. So if you do something that you believe should allow you to feel less fatigued, you'll come out of it feeling less fatigued simply because you believed it would work. Then the last option, the last thing I would do is reduce workout frequency. So if they train 4 days a week, we drop to 3 days a week until they start to feel better. And then we'll jump back up to the 4 days a week. The reason why I save that for the end is all the other things I mentioned will have a significant impact, allows them to still train their normal frequency, still feel proactive. When you cut down someone's frequency, they start to get into a negative emotional mindset. It's just not a good state because they're like, oh my God, now I'm not going to make any progress and my body's a piece of crap because I have to do less and I'm never going to reach my goal. And it just, oh man, that's a lot to unpack. So I save that for the very last option if I have to use it. But those are 8 plus 1, because I added sleep, adjustments and tips that we can use to improve muscle recovery. Make sure the person's consuming proper calories and protein. Again, you can use the BMR calculator on calculator.net. Make sure they have proper hydration, improve sleep quantity and or quality, reduce volume, improve technique, change exercises, get some movement and stretching between your workouts. You can use therapeutic devices like Normatec boots, the Hypervolt, those massage kind of guns, voodoo bands, Epsom salt bath, extreme temperature treatments, and then if needed, you can reduce training frequency. So that'll give you some great ideas. If you have any follow-up questions, just shoot me an email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. I appreciate you listening to the podcast. If this podcast is helpful to you, please share it with other people. You can share it on social media. You can share it in a conversation. If you share it, I appreciate it, and hopefully they will as well. If you like the podcast, you can also consider donating to support the podcast. You can do an actual donation on our website, www.brutalirongym.com, or you can go to Nutricost.com and buy your supplements from them using the code BrutalIron10. You will get a 10% discount on amazing, great supplements. I use their supplements for over 10 years. It's the supplement company I use the most for all of my supplements. And along with that code, BrutalIron10, you'll get a 10% discount, but it also sends a 10% commission to us. So you get something great at a discount, and then we get a little bit of money back. So that's a great way to donate to the podcast if you'd like to do that. Then if you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.